All right, so now let's examine verses 10 through 12.
Right.
And in that day there shall be a root of Jesse. So somebody's coming out of Jesse's lineage, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which shall stand for an ensign of the people. To it shall the Gentiles seek, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the Gentiles is going to seek somebody from the root of Jesse, right?
Mm-hmm.
This is where we first get a mention of the Gentiles, right?
Right.
And his rest shall be glorious. And it shall come to pass in that day that the Lord shall set his hand again the second time to recover the remnant of his people. So he's talking about the second Exodus, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which shall be left from Assyria. Now we know that the northern tribe, they went into Assyria, right? And
Mm-hmm.
from Egypt. But we ain't seen nobody getting carried away captive into Egypt, right?
Right.
And from Pathros and from Cush. Cush is Ethiopia, right? And from Elam and from Shinar and from Hamath and from the islands of the sea. Now, we haven't seen anybody getting carried captive into the islands of the sea. And he shall set up an ensign for the nations and shall assemble the outcasts of Israel, so that's the northern kingdom, and gather together the dispersed of Judah from the four corners of the earth.
Amen.
Now, wait a minute. Judah went into Babylon. When did Judah go into the four corners of the earth?
Amen.
So there had to be another scattering. All right?
Right.
Amen.
Zephaniah chapter 3. From beyond the rivers of Ethiopia, my suppliants, even the daughter of my dispersed, shall bring mine offering. In that day shalt thou not be ashamed for all thy doings, wherein thou hast transgressed against me. For then I will take away out of the midst of thee them that rejoice in thy pride, and thou shalt no more be haughty because of my holy mountain. I will also leave in the midst of thee an afflicted and poor people, and they shall trust in the name of the Lord. The remnant of Israel shall not do iniquity, nor speak lies, neither shall a deceitful tongue be found in their mouth. For they shall feed and lie down, and none shall make them afraid. Behold, at that time I will undo all that afflict thee, and I will save her that halteth, and gather her that was driven out, and I will get them praise and fame in every land where they have been put to shame. At that time will I bring you again, even in the time that I gather you. For I will make you a name and a praise among all people of the earth, when I turn back your captivity before your eyes, saith the Lord.
Okay. So in this passage, Zephaniah chapter 3, we see where the Most High is talking about turning back a captivity of all his people in all the lands of the earth, right? And he said, I'm going to make you a name and praise among all people of the earth when I turn back your captivity, right? So he ain't talking about the Assyrian captivity. He wasn't talking about the Babylonian captivity, right? But now here's something else that we have to see when we go up into verse 10. From beyond the rivers of Ethiopia, my suppliants, right?
Mm-hmm.
He talks about something about the daughter of his dispersed being beyond the rivers of Ethiopia, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Now let's go Isaiah chapter 18.
Isaiah chapter 18, I'm going to pick it up in verses 1 through 7. Verse 1. Woe to the land shadowing with wings, which is beyond the rivers of Ethiopia, that sendeth ambassadors by the sea, even in vessels of bulrushes upon the waters, saying, Go, ye swift messengers, to a nation scattered in field, to a people terrible from their beginning hitherto, a nation meted out and trodden down, whose land the rivers have spoiled. All ye inhabitants of the world, and dwellers on the earth, see ye, when he lifted up an ensign on the mountains, and when he bloweth a trumpet, hear ye. For so the Lord said unto me, I will take my rest, and I will consider in my dwelling place like a clear heat upon earth, like a cloud of dew in the heat of harvest. For the harvest, when the bud is perfect, and the sour grape is ripening in the flower, he shall both cut off the sprigs with pruning hooks, and take away and cut down the branches.
Okay. right. So in Isaiah 18, we have again where Isaiah says something about beyond the rivers of Ethiopia, right? And he said to the land that's beyond the rivers of Ethiopia. Also, he tells us something else in in verse 2, that sendeth ambassadors by the sea, even in vessels of bulrushes upon the waters, right? So we know that he's talking about ambassadors are representatives of people from other countries, right?
Amen.
And he tells us that, you know what I'm saying, that these people are going to come into vessels upon the waters. So we know he's talking about some ships, right? Okay. All right. So then he says, go ye swift messenger to a nation scattered and peeled. Now, the last we seen, the Jews that had went to Babylon were back in Israel. But this is talking about a nation that's scattered and peeled beyond the rivers of Ethiopia. Okay.
Amen.
All right. So now it says, all ye inhabitants of the world and dwellers on the earth, see ye when he lifted up an ensign on the mountains, and when he bloweth a trumpet, hear ye. Right? And verse 5, he says, for the harvest, when the bud is perfect and the sour grape is ripening in the flower, he shall both cut off the sprigs with pruning hooks and take away and cut down the branches.
Amen.
Right? So he tells us where the branches were cut down beyond the rivers of Ethiopia, right? Now let's go to our next map. So now we have a map, okay, and we see that Israel was here. Now we know that they got carried into Assyria. We know they got carried into Babylon, and they came back into Babylon, right? So we didn't have nothing being said about them going beyond the river of Ethiopia. Now, as you can see, Ethiopia is not just this little country, whatever, but actually, I'm going to show another map where Ethiopia really was all of this, right? Okay? In some maps, they have where Ethiopia was bigger than that, okay? Now, what we also got is he said beyond the rivers of Ethiopia. Now, we know there's major rivers in Ethiopia that starts down through here, and that river is the Nile. You see what I'm saying? Okay? Then we have another river that goes here, and it's the Niger. You see what I'm saying? Okay? So we have two rivers beyond the rivers of Ethiopia. If the people went beyond these rivers of Ethiopia, we're looking over in the west coast of Africa.
Amen.
Right? And if we're talking about the west coast of Africa, did any ships, vessels upon the water, come down in this region? Right?
Sure.
Let's go to our next map. All right. So as I told you before, can y'all see the map?
Yeah.
Yeah, we see.
Okay. All right. So as I told you before, here's a map where you see that Ethiopia happens to be not just, you see what I'm saying, that little country over there. We're in the west coast of Africa, and you see that Ethiopia was pretty much the land of Cush, went all the way down to here, right? Even all through here. And you see that what we call now the Atlantic Ocean, in some maps back then used to be called the Ethiopian Ocean, right? So you see they've been running around changing a whole lot of names and everything, all right? Let's go to our next map. All right. Now we seen where that last map we showed, where it was Ethiopia, right? But now we see on this map in the 1700s, it's got a whole different name now, doesn't it?
Negro
See what I'm
land.
saying? Negro land, right? And here's your Niger River running all through here, right? So we got another land, but down here we see something else. The Slave Coast, right? So now we're establishing, we're getting a little closer here. That there's something that happened down here, and we see that some people went beyond the river and we got a slave coast. All right, let's go to our next map.
And all these are just all this historical.
Yeah.
We ain't just draw these maps.
No,
Yep.
Make it up. It's historical.
Can y'all see that?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, sir.
All right, so now we see something else. We're on this slave coast. What do we got here? Kingdom
Of Judah.
of Judah.
Judah.
Right?
Judah.
Right
Mhm.
on the slave coast.
Yep.
All right, let's go to our next map. All right, so now in this map, matter of fact, okay,
It's a newbie. I ain't seen
Yeah,
this.
you got the zoom in.
Mm-hmm.
okay. All right, so in this map, we see what it says about Yemen Jews and Philashas, Berber, Moorish, and Negro Jews, right?
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
All right, now you see right over here to the right of the box where it's this Negro Jews, what do you see? Mavumba Jews, y'all see that?
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Sitting off the west coast of Africa, Sao and Tome, you got the Jews, and this is where in the Spanish Inquisition, they kicked them out of Spain and they put them in Sao and Tome, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay? Here, what do we see here? See that?
Levite cities.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. You see that? What's that? Benai Ephraim? Right?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yep.
You see that? Dahomey Jews? Right?
Mm-hmm.
We see Jewish traces all down through here, right?
Mm-hmm.
Let's go up here. As we see in Egypt, you see Elephantine Jew, right? You see how it talks about how the Jews Judaize in pre-Muslim time? See how the Yemen Jews, right? That's in southern South Arabia, right? Right down through here.
Yep.
Okay? And then Somaliland and all this. There you see your Falasha Jews right here. See how they got the what is that? Tabiban Jews?
Mm-hmm.
Hebrew?
Mm-hmm.
Pre-exile Yahwism? Right? Let's go up to the north. Just so people can get a sense of where we are here.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? And in the north, where you see the Libyan desert up in here, right?
Mm-hmm.
You see how you got Jews all through here? Tradition
sir.
of Jewish garrisons, right?
Mm-hmm.
We got Jews all up through here,
Berber.
all out throughout. Yeah, in Berber, yep.
Mm-hmm.
This is where you get into up here in Mauritania, where there's the Moors, right? You see, here you go, the Berber Jews that you was talking about, Leroy, Berber Jews,
Mm-hmm.
right? It's all down through here. They know where they went, you know?
Right.
So we see that they have maps where they had tracked and had Jews all over the place, right? In Africa.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
We're not making none of this up, you know? You got all these Jews scattered throughout all of Africa, and they got maps of this stuff. And yet, I take it all those people we seen all through Africa, those bunch of white people. Really?
Right.
You see,
Right.
Daniel need a tan.
When the lines, man. That picture.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.